Let's go exploring. You know, when someone tells that to you, you'd better run away, because they're likely to be a pervert. But today, we are going to go exploring. And we're going to be exploring the flat Earth. One of the most fantastic maps of the flat Earth that I have ever seen. And several varieties of it exist. And I just want to go explore this crazy map of the flat Earth from a world builder's perspective. So YouTube is full of flat Earth enthusiasts. And if you're one of those people, well, welcome. Just to clear things up a bit, I think the Earth is round and you have to be thinking in a really special way to believe otherwise. But anyways, I have no knife or axe to grind, but only my thoughts to burnish. So today, let's talk a little about the maps of the flat Earth, because they're dime a dozen. I mean, if you go to websites like the Flat Earth Society seen here, you can see many, many maps, old and new, of the flat Earth. But the ones I'm interested in are these guys, these 3 maps of unknown origin. I don't know who made them. They come from a site called flatearth101.com. If you want to see that spectacle, here it is. Here you go. I mean, it's a very, wow, it spins. Anyways, once again, I don't want to pick a fight with the flat earthers, you know. I mean, it's a special kind of 21st century belief, and I can actually understand where it's coming from. I mean, when the world becomes more complex than an individual can understand in their lifetime, skeptical movements naturally develop, like mold in an uneaten piece of food, you know? But I don't want to pick a fight with these guys. I just want to highlight the one difference that this amazing map has from the old maps. For example, this is a typical old map of the flat Earth designed by someone named Professor Orlando Ferguson. And he basically tried to reconcile biblical scripture with geographical facts. And in this map, the world isn't exactly flat, but it's kind of like a bump in a kind of concave depression on the firmament, I guess. And he goes through all the mental gymnastics to accommodate the setting and the rising of the sun, etc., etc. It's a really beautiful work of art. But this map and most other maps you can see on these flat Earth websites, there's one difference between them and this fantastic specimen which we're about to explore. Can you guess? All these maps look inward. They try to accommodate geographical facts with an outdated hypothesis. So all our continents are there, but somehow they're flat. These maps, on the other hand, they're wonderful. They're, I believe, works of art in the art of world design and conceptual, let's say, imaginationary engineering. Because if you look at them, they look outwards. They believe that around our world there are other continents, hitherto unexplored and undescribed. And there's a subset in the flat Earth believers, let's say, and they believe that the government's hiding these lost continents so that the new world order can exploit us all. But if you just cross the ice wall, that is the Antarctic, you can explore these new worlds. start a new life in the off-world colonies. So let's look at these three images. I've been finding them online through Google Images. One has been posted on Twitter, and the others, I don't know who made them. If you made these maps, reach out to me. Congratulations. You've done a man's job, sir. You've done a work of art, and you're a world builder like none other. Because as I told you, unlike all these old maps, these maps look outwards and they postulate new continents and new worlds where a true believer might explore one day. So I don't know in which order these maps were designed. I think this was the first. You can see our world, and then the sun is kind of rotating on it. The sun is a little ball of light. And then there are two moons, a black moon and a white moon, Set and Anubis. And I guess this is a device used to basically explain the phases of the moon. Because if you admit a round moon, and if you admit the phases of the moon, you'll admit the round moon, which is kind of like halfway there to admitting a round earth, and that's a no-no. So that's a really creative device. You can see these disks, Set and Anubis, rotate around each other, and what we think are the phases of the moon are in fact the different stages where Anubis obscures Set. I'm clapping to you. Then there's two more maps. I mean, there's this and this. I don't know which came first. Maybe actually some dude or gal took this map and two other people made these maps. But I don't know. But either way, they're works of art in the art of world design. So let's go exploring right now. Let's go exploring. I hope we've cleared the air with all you flat earthers. If you came to here seeking a fight, I'm not going to give it to you. But if you want to explore your beliefs, if you want to talk about them in the comment section, go ahead. While you're at it, subscribe to my channel and support me on Patreon. I'll be your scientific thinking world builder friend. So anyways, this is map number 1. Here we have our Earth. The world as we know it is actually flat. Let's go with this assumption. And then there's Set and Anubis and Sol, which are like discs giving light and casting shade. Basically, they're like lights to our terrarium, let's say. And one interesting thing are these cracks on the wall of ice that is Antarctica. Now, you might hear a little rumbling in the background. That's our trusty washer dryer. So sorry about that, but take it as part of the science fiction ambience of the exploration we are having. So this is New Zealand, here this is Australia, but if you can just make it past the wall of ice, and this is actually a gate, Bawwaabaat, the summer gate, but I guess there are little gates too, kind of back doors, designed by the unimaginable intelligences that designed our flat earth. So imagine we go out, we rent this choo-choo boat, choo-choo. We go out the Bawwaabaat summer gate, and there are new continents for us to explore. There's Hapis, which in my native language, Turkish, means prison. But I think all these names have kind of this pseudo-Egyptian ring about them. The beeping noises are washer dryer coming to the end of its program, so sorry about that. But once you go outside our major map of the world, you see that there's another sun, ball, illuminating these outer continents. And then there are these two other moons, Ya and Yah. So I find that's very interesting. If it's Set and Anubis, maybe shouldn't this be Yah and Wah? But I don't know. We have to take this map as a given. So there's two moons, one a shadow disk and a light disk, but they're both called Ya. That's a lovely name. It's exactly the kind of name I would run up to someone doing a cash withdrawal at an ATM machine, and I would go up to their ear and whisper, "Yeah." And then I would wake up in the county jail. But if the world was really built this way, it could be a really interesting world to examine. I mean, I'm immediately drawn to thinking about the animals and plants that might exist on Happis, this continent. If this is New Zealand here, maybe Happis is, let's say, a continent consisting only of birds. Because how do animals spread? I mean, if our original fauna lives here, maybe all these continents are inhabited by flightless birds of a very strange variety. And that would be, I mean, I would love this to be real. Only to be a zoologist and explore these maps, you know. And there's the continent of Happis. It's a single continent. So I guess you see, let's imagine there are these like giant ground birds living on it. Maybe here there are some different kinds of ground birds, but I don't know. Then there are these other continents, Geminia, Geminia Ra, and Geminia Set. Once again, these are Egyptian gods' names. Ra is the good god. Set is the evil god. There's this unclaimed continent. I believe I could just sail out from, here I am in Istanbul, cross the Straits of Hormuz, and just like sail on until I reach this crack. Go through the back door. You know, I'm a backdoor man when it comes to the flat earth. And I just keep on driving, basically. I would have to have a nuclear-powered boat or a solar-powered boat or a plane. And I would find this unnamed continent right by Pitatia, Sagittarium. I guess this is where all the people with the star sign Sagittarius live. I don't know, but this continent would be mine. Memo land, I would call it. I would land here, start an off-world colony, and then go back. When people believe me, I'll come back with all my colonists and stuff and make this my own. Pitatia, Sagittarium. By the way, Geminia looks like a more lush planet than Happis, because it's got these inland seas that would imply a kind of Mediterranean type lake where navigation is easy. And if we follow our speculative evolution about only birds settling these continents, and when they land they evolve into flightless forms, and in Geminia maybe they evolve into even intelligent forms that kind of trade across these little Mediterranean lakes and farm and build a happy civilization. Anyway, that's the vibe this continent gives to me. It looks like a lush, fertile, and intelligent kind of a Babylonian bird planet. Happis looks like kind of a howling Canadian wilderness. Although on these islands, I guess some sort of balmy climate can be found, and I could just... But anyway, I don't think there are intelligent birds here. Whereas this is my continent. I don't know what lives there. Probably 2 flightless bats and some chickens, and I don't know. But then we get to Pitatia, Sagittarium. It looks like a very... I don't know, maybe there's some port city action going here. I don't know. This looks like India. So maybe this tip of Pitatia is very fertile, and it's got these elephant birds and I don't know, these lush forests where I could just hop from here, and if there's no intelligent species running about, I could be the Maharaja of Pitatia. Oh, then there's, By the way, to do these, let's say the sun rotates on a 24-hour cycle, but then there's the other sun, Ball. Does it rotate at the same speed? But that means it must be going at twice the speed, I guess. I mean, the question I want to ask is, does this sun have the same wavelength And if not, maybe it's a different, maybe all the plants you see on these continents have like this reddish chlorophyll or whatever. And also, do they cycle at the same speed? I mean, if the day here is 24 hours, then maybe ball goes faster, But we can never know. But then, if we go this way, we get to the biggest attraction of the flat Earth map. Thoth, the moving island. Thoth is obviously another Egyptian god's name, but in contemporary slang it also means acronym for, well, if you only have Thoth without this H, it means that hoe over there. And much like its contemporary slang acronym, Thoth is always moving about, trying to look for someone to crash with, looking for someone to graft to. I guess Thoth is also very rich in gold because, Thoth would be a gold digger. Sorry, that's a sexist joke. Now, this is the most interesting one. How does this continent move? And if does it ever crash? I guess these arrows point the way Thoth moves, the moving island. But the passing of this island would be a geographical event of itself. Because imagine I'm just chilling here on this island, okay, and Thoth comes about. If you have this continent-sized landmass just moving through the sea, just by its movement alone, that continent would create these horrible storms, cyclones, droughts. Like, let's say if there's this kind of hot water current that's keeping all these continents warm. If Thoth interrupts it, maybe you have a freezing season. And if this thing has been going around for a long time, I guess all the life in these continents, in these worlds, would be adapted to the passage of the Thoth. So maybe you got these regular flowers who follow the seasons. Then you got this other kind of plant life who only reproduces once every 17 or so years when the Thoth comes a-crossing. Ha! Anyways, that's very interesting. I mean, if you look at this thing with a contemporary knowledge of the laws of physics and how weather operates, also you got these enormous blank seawater spaces. Just to make things clear, this is the Pacific Ocean. This is the Atlantic Ocean. And from our world, the kind of giant storms that the Atlantic and the Indian and the Pacific Oceans produce. So you got this huge space here. And just to make things more complicated, Thoth comes about and churns it every decade or so. There could be storms so awful in this flat Earth that they could make these continents just uninhabitable. I mean, imagine I set up my little colony here, and then 5 years later, it's like everything blows over. It's a typhoon. To make our typhoons look puny in comparison, one never knows. And then there's this place, Libris, which looks like a... By the way, kudos on this guy. I mean, I just want to imagine a fantasy universe set in this world already, where there would be different human species on these worlds. And actually, if this thing was real, you could have something like Star Wars, except with ship fleets. You could have, I said that maybe there's only birds living here, but let's, for the sake of argument, imagine that these worlds are as richly inhabited as the worlds in the Star Wars universe are. So you could have this real sense of danger, where maybe the Empire of Happis organizes a fleet of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers. And they're sitting right across the Bawwaabaat gate. So they assemble their nuclear carriers, go in through here, and stage this industrial-scale Viking raid on our world. Imagine these alien ships emerge, And you could really have, much like the Star Wars universe, you could have like these amazing ship-to-ship battles. If we build nuclear-powered fleet carriers, there's practically no size limit to them. So you could have these giant ships and planes fighting about. And these Star Wars on this flat Earth would be fought with nuclear weapons too. Imagine the Thoth Island is just blocking this entrance. And in 2 years it moves away. So now the Empire of Happis can attack us. And suddenly you have these alien ships, but like real surface vessel ships. They occur simultaneously in Japan, Australia, New Zealand is easy pickings. I think that would be their first site. They attack Hawaii first. Another cosmic Pearl Harbor, the day which will live in infamy. Then they strike the western seaboard and, oh my god, what are we gonna do, Mr. President? And like all these cities are like conquered by the Happisian invaders, you know? But then, I know a way to stop them. And everyone, all the Earth people arrange a kind of last resistance fleet somewhere here by the Northern Sea. And they use actually icebreakers to go through the Arctic. And they kind of land a crushing blow on the alien invaders. Remember, if the planet is this big, you don't need to worry about nuclear weapons that much. You can certainly like fire a few megatons, you know, wipe them out. And the world lives to fight another day. And perhaps in the second and third installment of these Flat Earth Star Wars, we could go to liberate. Imagine, you know, I had a bad vibe from Happis. So they actually, let's imagine they colonized and enslaved the poor innocent people of Thoth. So in the next installment, we could go and liberate Thoth and save all these alien species. And maybe, I don't know, it's so much, it's full of possibilities. You could write a series of 10 novels set in this world. It's just beautiful. But there's more. I mean, there are, as I showed you before, there are extended versions of this map. I believe this one came first, but then this and probably this one followed it. It's questionable which one came first. It looks like maybe they did this one first, but then again, this one has more detailed names on continents, but the continents are all blobs. This guy, on the other hand, has seemingly more detailed continent maps, but if you look at them closely, they're actually copy and paste maps of our own planet. There's this huge Australia. I really love it. You cross all this way, fight all these enemy empires, and then you go there, and everybody's like Steve Irwin, and this is a huge Australia. I mean, it's as big as Africa. So here you got like 10,000 species of monitor lizards and poisonous snakes and stuff. It's really interesting. Again, we're playing this game where we take this thing as at face value. And this looks like another map of our planet, but they've filled in the Mediterranean and I don't know. This is just Russia and China. So maybe it's, I don't know, Cold War communism planet. And this guy has different moons. We were all familiar with Set Anubis. And our old friend Thoth, the moving island. Then there's the old moon. So this guy has a interesting mechanics for this universe. You see, new sun born. And there's the 24-hour cycle. It's difficult to read, but that's our own sun. And it says, oh, I can't read this for the life of me. But if we zoom out, current sun spiraling out, pulsing in and out for the seasons over time. So you see, this is a master stroke of world building. This guy invents this amazing spiraling sun system and the spiraling double disk moon system to not only explain seasons, but also to explain where all these suns come from. So you see, this old sun, the secondary ring, is actually home to older suns and moons. So you see, new sun born every once often, I guess. The sun comes here and it starts spiraling out. And as it spirals out, it goes to the outer rings. And here's old unknown sun spiraled out to unknown continents, which all look like Australia to me, but hey, who am I to question the logic of this amazing planet? Spirals out, continues. So it's like this reverse drain in a way. And it's a really ingenious kind of mechanics. It looks like a pretty self-contained world. So what is to stop us from looking for old rings? You know, maybe this thing has 1 million rings and there's trillions of continents on each ring. But also, does Thoth, the moving island, does it also spiral or is it just locked in? That's a question for the ages. But let's continue our expedition with this map actually, because this is actually really good for like nailing down the mechanics of this sun spiraling outer ring universe. And I assume, just for the record, that as they spiral out, these guys actually start moving faster. So at the far outer rings, maybe if there's like a 10th layer of these rings, the sun would be moving like a comet to illuminate all the continents and basically to keep in sync with the other worlds. Also, to come back, this place, Libris, here's a more clear version. You see, it's at the bottom of this ice wall, an entire continent. And if they break through this wall, they would go to these continents. So I guess our mysterious creator was somewhat inspired by the Game of Thrones series. And arguably, you could compress all of the Game of Thrones episodes, and that crap series would still be 10,000 times worse than this crappy map. I think this is a better narrative story than Game of Thrones itself. But hey, that's just me. So let's go on. This is the second version of this third ring map. And it's very clearly labeled, and there's much for us to examine. So we've seen in our previous study that our moon and the dark disk that occults it, they're named Set and Anubis. But for some reason, in the second ring, the moon and the shadow disk are named Yah and Yah. Once again, it's a name I want to whisper to my, high school crush and get kicked in the balls. It's a kind of name that a pervert would whisper to the woman he fancies on the subway. This version of the map has names for everything. And once again, I guess this started out as a mistake. He just forgot to edit the text layer and just nailed it down on Microsoft Paint. So now this has become a rule. So now you have Je and Je. From now on, all the moons and all the shadow disks have the same name. Ho, ho. I don't know whether that's a Santa Claus reference or it's kind of harkening back to Thoth, the moving island. Imagine a character. I was born under the disk of two hoes, and I fought all my way to this Thoth, but this Thoth keeps a moving. That was a joke. So another naming convention persists for the suns. So you had Sol, our sun, and then there's Bol, and then there's Mole, and then there's Goal, and then there's, well, that's all the suns I could see. But so now this guy really starts getting into the world building game. We got extra names: Dolnarat, the Winter Gate. I'm not sure if these are Egyptian mythology names. Let's just try. Sorry. Dolnarat. Okay. Doesn't mean anything. Wait. Yeah, no matches. So he's inventing names. Dolnarat and then Mumarat, the Autumn Gate. Do seasons even matter in this place? And why aren't these gates labeled? And there are these ice continents, and they're like really huge. I mean, this chunk of ice is nearly as big as the continental United States. And then there's Nu, the lost cluster. So, since we're speculating from vibes here on this map. Oops, sorry. I got lost too. Lost, looking for the lost cluster. So this sounds like a kind of lost children's island where all these inner seas would be actually a fantastic place to explore, and it would have amazing biodiversity with all these island continents. But it looks like some place where like all lost souls go to therapy, to heal, and maybe to come back to our world at a later stage. And then there are these other continents. Amen, also known as Ra. I think our creator confused Amon-Ra, another name for the Egyptian sun god Ra, but he or she wrote this as Amen. Amen, my brother. And then there's Mortis, which means death. Its shape is a bit like, even though it's a huge continent, I mean, Mortis is it's bigger than Europe. But the name Death and its shape all remind me of this painting. Arnold Böcklin's Isle of the Dead. And as you can see, this is a very mystical image, but it's also a boring image. I've seen it so many times, I'm kind of sick of it. But even though as a painting, it's beautiful. And you see this crescent-shaped island with trees in the middle. And there's this second islet behind it. Maybe a kind of pinnacle. So if we go here, and if we look at Island of Mortis, it's somewhat of a similar shape. Although this inner sea is full of trees. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Here's another empty island, which I christened my own. It's the island of Dr. Memo. And then there's another Je. And this is just amazing. Kek. There's an entire planet, a world named Kek. Is this where Kekistan is? I don't want to get too much into these Kek memes thing. Unless you've been living in Iraq for the last few years, in YouTube-verse and in internet meme-verse, Kek is the name given to... Well, I'll just have to show it to you, don't I? Oh, not. Kek means cake in Turkey, so wait. So Kek was the name given to this frog meme, which kind of got on board with the whole Trump campaign, and at one point it got labeled a hate sign wrongly, I believe. And more recently, the Hong Kong protesters are using it as a symbol to basically express themselves against Chinese oppression and domination. But suffice it to say that this is the name of a complicated and, let's say, questionable meme. And here we have an entire world named after it. I wonder if this is Kekistan, or it's where all the center right, or I don't know. I don't want to touch this really. This channel is politically neutral. Here we got another sun. Gull. And there's Mu, which is a lost continent. Historically, it's the name given to this entire continent that was believed to exist in between America, Europe, and Africa. We can find more maps of it. So my mistake. Mu was in the Pacific. I think Atlantis was in the Atlantic. I don't know. So they believed, don't ask me why or how, we could do an entire podcast about this. They believed that Mu lay in here between South America, Asia, Australia, wherever. And the present day islands of Samoa, Tahiti, Easter Island, Hawaii were all mountains on this gigantic continent. And of course, they were, like, according to this myth, super advanced. And here's Atlantis, by the way, in the middle of the Atlantic. So it was an elder race. And let's see if... I don't think this Mu looks like... It doesn't look anything like that Mu. But I guess the creator of this map was running out of names. And he says, okay, well, just call the other one Moo, like a cow. So this is a world where only bovines live. And this is a mystical kind of Atlantis hanky-panky land. And there's gonorrhea. And a specific subset here is named Gonorrhea Ra, under the glorious moon of Ho and Ho. How many Ho's are there in this planet? Sorry, just had to make this joke. So gonorrhea, for some reason, has subsections. There's gonorrhea Set, gonorrhea Ra. I don't know what these gonorrheas are called. Gonorrhea, contracted from all these Ho's, I guess. Oh my God. Please. And then there's Lemuria. Lemuria, one of my favorite bands, Pixies, had a song named Lemuria. But it was another one of these mythical lost continents. And I believe it was near Madagascar. But once again, we need to check. Lemuria map, let's say. Well, let's check out this one. Hypothetical sketch of... Wait. I'm gonna zoom into this bad boy. Okay. Oh, the pixels are just biting your eyes, aren't they? Hypothetical sketch of the monophyletic origin and of the extension of... I can't read it. From Lemuria over the earth. So, whoever made this map, and believe me, throughout history, there were a lot of eccentric people coming up with these theories, and all of them were bunk. But you have to admire these people, much like you admire these flat earth people, for their capability for mental and semantic gymnastics. So they spread out from this region, a continent maybe, I don't know, called Lemuria, someplace named Paradise, and from there on they spread all over. But it's very strange. Also, this map is a bit racist. Different races: Mediterranean, Dravidian, that's another word for Indian, Polar, Mongols, whatever. So uncivilized. Anyways, let's go back to our planet, our flat Earth multiverse. So that's where the name Lemuria comes from. And as I just told you before, it's a fun and exciting Pixies song. Na 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 na. I wish Mortis was aligned with Libris, so someone could tunnel between them on land, but no such luck. But once again, to conclude, we have this amazing, interesting online artifact created probably by someone who really believes the world is flat, and probably built over by someone who was just out there for the lols. I mean, I don't believe that a person who came up with names such as gonorrhea and kek would be a serious believer, you know. But still, even at this stage, this map shows us something, that these flat earthers, I don't think, how to put this delicately, you're not the smartest tools in the shed, but in a perverse way, you deserve this grudging admiration for believing that there might be more to our world than it seems. And that's a healthy instinct in healthy doses. In the very least, whoever made these maps, they flexed their world building muscles. And really, I mean, once again, it will be really interesting to watch a film, read a book, or read a comic, or play a game set in a universe like this. Hell, this would make such a great strategy game. Remember that nuclear battle I told you about with the Hapis and etc.? That would make an amazing turn-based strategy game. Conquer all the worlds. And when you do that, you advance to the next ring. And the game never ends. The spirals out continue. Anyways, guys, this was our expedition in this strange and funny flat earth map. And I hope you enjoyed it. In case you're one of the flat earth people, and I know there's many of you on YouTube, welcome to my channel. This is an eccentric channel. If you believe the world is flat, you are free to comment. If you're rude, I will delete and block you. But if you're not rude, I will let your comment sit. So here you go. I won't get into a debate with you though, because it's like arguing with olive oil. You guys always come out on top. It is though very strange how these beliefs proliferate in this day and age. I find it in a way similar to medieval thinkers. In the earliest, darkest medieval era, there were a lot of thinkers who refused the logical and, let's say, more pragmatic thinking of the antiquity. They refused to believe in the real world in favor of a more spiritual understanding of the cosmos. And that's why, in a way, the dark ages were dark and literacy fell across large parts of Europe, etc., whatever. So it was not a positive thing. But also, in that decline, something positive did happen. And this is a big argument, but the roots of what we might call humane ethics were planted during that era. By forcing themselves to refuse the older order, the medievals did something commendable, even if only a little. I mean, faith-based understanding of the world was very new when it came out at the end of the Roman Empire. And as I just told you, it wasn't great news on the longer run, but maybe for the individual people caught at that junction of history, maybe for them it was a refreshing and invigorating kind of thought. Would you rather live in a world you can understand, a world that's round, but also a world that is caught in the grip of a techno-scientific advancement so complex and so unfair that never in a million lifetimes will a person have hopes to exceed his or her standing in life. I mean, in this day and age, you grow up with student debts, the world is like transparently unfair. Would you rather live there, or would you rather live in a kind of hazy, kind of sick world that also has all these wild continents beyond America, beyond Europe, beyond the perfectly understandable but extremely cruel dynamics of our world? What if there are new continents for us to explore? It's the oldest human instinct, ladies and gents. It's the desire to believe in something else, the desire to believe in more. And for that reason, flat earthers deserve a little accolade. So, all the more power to you. I don't think the world is flat, but I think it's a good benefit to whoever who can come up with crazy scenarios like this. Because where we stand now, out of the box thinking is as necessary to our future as blood is for our bodies. Anyways, that has been CM Kozaman's expedition to the flat earth. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to this channel. Check out every once often. They say they kind of fudged the algorithm, so you can't really see when I upload a new video. So there. And also please consider supporting me on Patreon. Because of where I live, $1 is worth 6 of my currency. And if you only donate me $1 per month, this coffee I'm sipping, it's been paid by my Patreon donors. So there, consider donating. And keep your outlook on the world strange. Goodbye.